Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. I want to welcome you to another segment of the Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. Today is Friday, April the 25th, 2025. This is the day after the first round of the not NBA, sorry, the NFL draft. And I want to just quickly discuss that. As everyone know, I'm a Jets fan and secondarily a 49ers fan, but this is not about the 49ers. This is going to be about the Jets and then some other teams around the league that I thought made some interesting moves. So as far as the Jets is concerned, they got the offensive lineman that I expected them to do, which was to get Armand Membu. Now, I mean, they needed a tight end. They had other needs, but game well, games are won in the trenches. Games and losses are in the trenches, folks. More so than in any other area on the field. I mean, it's nice having a sports car like a Ferrari, a Porsche, or whatever, but it's only as good as the engine. If you don't have a great engine, then everything else on the body and the car may look nice, but it's not going to give you great performance. Same thing with a team. Teams are won and lost in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. However, in today's NFL, you need a quarterback. The Jets, they went in, they signed their quarterback. And I'm going to say this to a lot of Jet fans and media. Stop with this whole the Jets may use a pick on early pick on first it was Jackson Dart because you had some media members out there, not mentioning no names, who said, "Oh, the Jets is so much in love with Jackson Dart." Well, if the Jets was so much in love with Jackson Dart, why didn't they draft him with the seventh pick? Now you can say, "Oh, well, that was considered overvalue." Okay, fair enough. That's fair. Then when as the draft was going down, why didn't it just jump into the first round like the Giants did to go get Jackson Dart if they were so much in love with Jackson Dart? So you see, there's always before the draft what we call smoke screen, a lot of nonsense, craziness that goes on that really doesn't mean that's what the team is going to do. Yeah, I heard how much Mike Tomlin loves him some Shador Sanders. Yet Pittsburgh decided to pass on Shador, and we're going to get to that a little later on. But this is starting off about the Jets. And so the Jets is not drafting Jackson Dart because Jackson Dart got drafted by the Giants. The Giants moved back in the first round, and I'm going to mention them later on too. So the Jets is not getting Jackson Dart, and even though Sanders is there to be had. They're not drafting Sanders. They're not drafting a quarterback before the fourth round in this draft, folks. The earliest that they might go quarterback is in the fourth round. Why? Because I told you once before, I'm telling you again, they're going to give Justin Fields every chance they can for him to succeed or fail without worrying about being replaced by the quarterback. And if you draft a guy in the first two rounds, they're going to expect ultimately, especially in the first round, they're going to expect that guy to be a starter. So that takes that pressure right off the table. I said the Jets wouldn't do that, and they didn't. And now they got, oh, the Jets may be looking at Shador Sanders. They're not looking at Shador Sanders. I can assure you the Jets is not looking at Shador Sanders. Um, whether they should or not is another story, but they're not doing that. So the Jets did the right thing. So as far as the Jets is concerned, I think I've said enough on that. Um, Other teams that I found interesting on draft day. One, I got to give it up to Cleveland. Now, the fans and the media might have hated the move, and I'm talking about the Cleveland media and the Cleveland fans hated the move because anytime you move down from 2 to 5, they sacrificed um, a unicorn, as they like to call it, Travis Hunter, for a defensive tackle. And a lot of Clevelanders are up in arms about that move. But I'm going to say this. I think Barry did the right thing. Now, it's all in whether these players turn out to be anything. And unfortunately for Barry, he does not exactly have a great history of drafting players, which is the problem to begin with. But remember, you gave up a lot to get the Shaw Watson trade, which I still agreed with at the time. And so I'm going to stand by that, even though it didn't work out. So, but you did move up a lot you gave up a lot to get him. Then you had a chance to move off of Garrett, you know, Miles Garrett, and you did not do that. So you need to really get a lot of assets. And Jacksonville was willing to overpay. So I think Cleveland did the right thing, but I'm going to give them a grade of incomplete until I see what they do throughout the rest of this draft and even maybe next year's draft before I could say, whether they did good or bad. Another team that I thought was very interesting, and again, before I talk on Pittsburgh, I'm going to talk on the New York Football Giants. Now they went and got the third pick, Abdul Carter, which was everybody anticipated them doing. Okay, okay, but it's what they did with their second pick, where they jumped back into their first round by trading their first second round pick to the Los Angeles Rams, and they went up and selected Jackson Dart. Now, I personally would not have drafted Dart, not over Deion Sanders, or excuse me, Shador Sanders. I would not have done that. But the Giants chose to do that. And I can't say I hate the move because I don't think there's a significant difference between Shador Sanders and Jackson Dart. I don't think the gulf is as wide. Um, so I think the Giants had a good draft. I got to give them pretty much an A for now. Again, we got to see if that move paid off, if it worked. And for the Giants' sake, they better hope he's really, really good because you gave up to get him. And so you want that player to be really, really good. Now that brings me on to Pittsburgh. I don't know what the heck they're doing over there. This is a team that needs a quarterback in the worst of ways. And they went and got a defensive tackle. Now, again, I don't hate it on the surface because you can never have enough of offensive linemen and defensive tackles. You can never have enough of those. How? Because those are what you call the trenches, like I mentioned earlier, the trenches. However, if you don't have a quarterback, folks, it doesn't matter what your trenches look like. You could have the steel curtain defense or the Minnesota People Eaters defense back in the day, or any other great defense back in the day. But without that quarterback, you're going nowhere. They needed a quarterback, and then they chose to get a defensive tackle. So what that's telling me is this. Here's what this is telling me. That number one, they don't believe in Shador. Okay? So much for Mike Tomlin loving Shador Sanders. But number two, and even more importantly, they believe or they got a handshake agreement on Aaron Rodgers. Because no way you're going to tell me you're going to sacrifice going into the season with Duck Hodges. I mean, come on. I mean, this is bad. I don't know. And, I don't know. I don't understand Pittsburgh. I really don't. So my guess is Aaron Rodgers must have some sort of a tacit agreement that Rodgers is coming to Pittsburgh. And they didn't want to piss off Rodgers by drafting a quarterback, though they still need to get one for the future because Rodgers is not that guy. Okay, and so those are my quick thoughts on the first night of the NFL draft. Have a good day.